after being suggested by not only my wife but my friends that I provide some kind of way to look at the trains going through the Helix, I've decided to cut a window. I think I've mentioned that once before. So I'm going to start to do that today. Hopefully we'll see the results or it'll turn out. I've never done this, and the Helix is in place, or at least the fascia around it, so I can't detach it without a lot of damage. So I'm just going to go ahead and try and cut the window in. Otherwise I'm going to drill some holes, and then from the back side to kind of show where the, I want the window to be. Then I'll cut a rough hole out and then borrow a router from somebody and try and finish it off. So but in the meantime, I've painted the fascia blue, trying to hide it. Up here I'll do what's similar to what I've done here. I did have a joint between two pieces of masonite here, so I put these rock castings in and I put some foliage around it to try and hide the edge. And then in the meantime, I've also at the other plant used putting some roadways and things like that up there leading into the plant. And then I'm trying to get the materials together to actually build the Utz plant from here. Got some pictures to go by I'll kind of get close to it. And then in the meantime, I've taken the cut stone tunnel portal out and cut some foam core out for a tunnel portal here. I actually have the inner sides set up also, but I'll just paint that gray and then finish off the retaining wall here, and then continue the rock castings along this edge. So we'll go from there. I'll show you a couple of the processes along the way. We'll see how that goes. Almost like a little bit of a how-to for those of us that didn't have the foresight to, do this beforehand. So anyway, this will be my attempt, and I'm going to start drilling the holes here in just a few minutes. Anyway, what I'm planning on using, I have this 1/16 inch, 1/8 inch drill bit long that I use to go through the foam and the masonite on the rest of the railroad, so I can get the wires down from the tracks and accessories and things like that. So I'm going to use this one to come through the Helix from the backside. Okay, so there's the holes to start out with, and we'll go from here. After drilling the holes, I noticed that they were awful far apart. I have some here and some over here, and what I've decided to do, that was just too big a window. I'm just going to do it from here to here, so I just wanted to point it out before I keep going. Now what I'm going to do is take a much larger bit that I can get the jigsaw blade into. And since I have a general area where I'm going to be with the window, I'm going to drill some holes from the backside to put the jigsaw blade into. Okay, so now I just need to get the jigsaw and cut out the... So now what I'm going to do is take the jigsaw and cut out between these holes. Hopefully it don't hit any track. So there's my opening. Like I say, now all I need to do is get a router. And then what I can do is back in here, I'll build a fascia back here, carry it around a little bit, paint it dark, and then scenic in here a little bit. A friend of mine, Dave Hughes, did that, and it looks really great. So I'm going to attempt to do the same thing. So hopefully, it might be a while because I'm still going to get the router and everything, but at least it's a start. So hopefully I'll be back to show you, what the routering looks like. And well, I have no choice now. And we'll get some finished pictures for you from there. Thanks. Okay, so I've picked my first rock casting that I want to do. It's going to rock a little bit because of the curvature of the helix. So I'm going to put an extra amount down here on this end. Give me support somewhere in the middle here, and then a bunch over here on this side. Hopefully when I stick that in, that extra glue will adhere. So I just hold it in place like that. Once again, because I'm so far away, it's hard to see. But you can see that that's already stuck on there. So then I can grab my next rock casting, decide which way I want that one to go. Any gaps that you have, you can fill in with smaller pieces or ones that have a, I'm trying to find one that has a, can't find one that are really neat. Well, this would probably work. Okay, so I can fill in here between these two a little bit. Once again, just throw some glue on there, hot glue. Make sure you have your extra hot glue stick handy when you're running out. And stick that on. I didn't put enough glue on, so and this is not feeding it very well. There we go. Come on. That goes. There we go. And there will be a gap here, but that'll all get filled in with maybe a little bit more sculpting mold along the edge here. I'll show you in a few minutes. Once I get a couple more of these rock castings on, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Anyway, you just, that's a big space here, but I think I can actually overlap a couple right here. Well, that's interesting, I'll try that. Now I use a little medium temp, low temp hot glue gun because over the years I don't know how many times I've burned my fingers really bad from using this stuff. So push this up to place here. And then we got a gap right here. There's a gap right here that we'll fill in with some vegetation later. So now we can come back to this and can overlap this too. That's going to be kind of neat. Now this one broke, but that's easy enough to fix. I'm just wondering if the glue's starting to be hard to come out. I'm kind of wondering if I unplugged it inadvertently. No, we're all plugged in. So, and pull these little stringies off of here. Still have paint on my hands. Anyway, where are the other broken pieces? Anyway, we just continue along. And if you see some areas you need to fill in give it extra strength, that's really easy to do. You just put extra hot glue in there and do that. So I'm glad I bought the extra box of Ready Rocks. Yeah, that really sticks out. Oh, anyway, one more to do. This one's opposite the one of the other ones that we already put in. Look, that fits in there really neat, actually. So, the way this hot glue gun decides it doesn't want to put the glue out real well, I squeeze the trigger pretty hard. So, get that in here. Anyway, it gives you an idea how to do it. For now, I'll open up this other box and I'll finish off the end here. Then I'll show you what it looks like when we come back and throw some vegetation on there. So be back in a few minutes. So now that I've got all the rock castings in, you can see I have some spaces here that can be filled in with vegetation. But I do have some gaps between the sculptor mold I just put in and the rock castings I just put in. I don't know if you can see it real well, but the gap's just not gonna look right, even with some vegetation in there. I don't think. I can try it. We'll see what happens. But you see the gaps that I have here between the rock, because of the fascia, roundness of the helix fascia. So coming along, there's that space there. That's easy enough to hide. So anyway, I'll get back to you here in a minute. I'll try a couple things and I'll show you what I ended up doing was to add a little more sculptor mold. And this time I just used the stone gray on it and I painted it while it was still wet. Actually, it came out pretty good. And then I cut down, there was a pinnacle in the one spot, and I ended up just cutting that and then filled it in with a little sculptor mold. It just didn't, it was kind of out of place. So anyway, and I just filled the area in with the sculptor mold, just painted it. And also I did a dry brush on the outside, the rock castings that I put in to kind of help blend it in together a little bit. So that's starting to, that actually blended it in a little bit. So looks like I might need to add a little bit of a tan color maybe to make it look a little more uniform. And then I filled in a couple of the big gaps between the fascia and the rock castings. The sculptor mold gets really strong, so it'll fill that area in pretty well. Have to refocus a couple times here, apologize for that. So there was a big gap in there. I just filled it in with some sculptor mold, and that'll get filled in with vegetation. And so all these little gaps that you can see will get filled in. I think it's really going to look neat when I get it done. You can't even see the window, which is just underneath the picture right now. Oh, you can? No, you can't. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to go add a little bit of ground cover and a little bit of vegetation, and we'll see how it looks in there. I don't know if any of you have seen my how-to videos on the MB Klein's crane shop, website. But I use full strength Elmer's glue when I put the first layer of vegetation down or ground cover, whatever it might be. Take the brush, spread it out. It's hard to do while I'm trying to hold the camera and do the work at the same time. But that won't hurt. But you put it down full strength. And the train going by below. The Penn Central line's the only one that I have is just a continuous loop that I can run back and forth on all the time. So to spread this out. Now in this case, I'm going to use a little bit of, what I'm going to use here is, my first coat's going to be medium natural soil and dirt from Scenic Express. I really like their product. I just put it in the cap like this, reach in, and then just start sprinkling on the area. They have a really finer stuff that you can put down, but in a lot of ways it's a little too fine. So I just spread this in here. You kind of get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll come back to you in a minute. Kind of the ground or earth underneath in place. I'm going to come back with another product that Scenic Express makes. which is called Farm Pasture Blend. Kind of a neat, especially good for farms and things like that. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on here, just to give it a little bit of a green texture, add a little bit of different texture to the scene. It actually looks really good, like especially in a farm field. This stuff is excellent for that. Sorry about that. I lost what I was doing while I was trying to watch what I was doing at the same time. Hard to do the camera and the scening at the same time, but coming along. Coming off the tracks here for a second. So come back and actually might add another layer or two of a different style. Now I will say that you may see the glue come through while it's drying, soak through the material you put down, but after a day it'll settle in and kind of disappear. You won't see it the next morning. Like I say, it's coming along. I need to paint the rails on the Castor track there, rust color, so just to help things out, and maybe run a dry brush over the ties to kind of make them look a little weathered. So anyway, here's just a little bit of a how to do this. I will I'll show you how to put the vegetation on here. I gotta let this dry for a little bit first. So anyway, I'll be back in a few. Actually, I painted the rails and put a little bit of dry brush on the ties. Hopefully you can see the difference. It's very subtle, but it makes a big difference in how the track looks. I couldn't reach the back side of the rail on the outside rail until I get it. We'll take the retaining wall out and then I'll be able to get it. Now I'm going to use these foliage clusters. I only have medium green right now, so I'm only going to be put a little bit of those in. You want to stick with the light green for the most part, and mix in a little bit of the medium. So what you do is you take the bag and you pull out a piece of foam. Let me get it here. A little hard to do one-handed. And then what you do is you'll break off a small piece, and then another small piece, like that. So several small pieces, break them off, like that. So now what you do is take your hot glue gun and you put a little bit of glue on the product that you want to mount. Hot glue's still not all that hot, and then what you do is you come down and you place it and like that, like so. You'll get these little spider webs when it's all said and done, but you can pull those off later. So kind of an idea. You can see the spider web here. See if we can get that. Yeah, there we go. A little disconcerting where you're trying to film and do that at the same time. Anyway, they just pull off. So I'm going to throw a few of these up here just to give you an idea of what it does for you. So I don't know if you noticed or not, but there was a gap here between two of the rock castings came together, so I filled that gap in with a little bit of vegetation. And then we had a big gap in here, which I filled in. And then also there's a gap underneath, but I think I'm just going to throw some more vegetation once I get the light green, because it does look a lot better. The darker actually eats too much light. I mean, you don't have enough light on your layout usually to begin with. I think I have more than most because I have these LED strips all around my fascia. But I'll continue that on around here, and if I can find a spot, and it looks like I might be able to put a tree or two in between you know, the road and on top of some of the rock castings, and that'll actually give a whole lot of depth to the scene. So just want to give you a heads up. So I will get back to you on how the Helix or the window in the Helix is coming along, but maybe I'll post this in the meantime just for a little, you know, how to and what I'm doing on the layout right now. So take care, everyone. Hope you have a great winter. Bye. Not quite finished, but you can see now the green, lighter green vegetation. I've installed some of that. I used a finer cut blade on the window opening. Looks better. I am getting a little bit of push to just leave that open. I may not be adverse to that, just because you can look in and watch your train go around at that point. So still need to add a little bit of vegetation to finish this up, but just thought I'd give you a, you know, kind of a semi-finished view of some of the things that I've done since yesterday's video. So see you soon.